To my channel. My name is gothiclolia Angel, and in today's video we are going to be talking about my journey as a mangaka, aka a manga artist. More importantly, my journey to where I am now as a manga artist, and why drawing your manga, even though your art may not be as good, is necessary for your growth. I have been creating manga for 5 years now fully, and I have learned a lot in that process over that time. And in this video, I will be sharing my processes over the years to what I learned and the mistakes that I made, as well as explain the reason why people will to draw their manga such comic. Then following the obstacles that we have to go through, which connects back to what I mentioned before about the struggles and the issues that you're dealing with when creating your own comic/manga. And then next, explaining my influences on what made me want to get into creating my own manga and why that can help you do the same. Finally, we'll deep dive into my evolution of my manga making process and where it currently stands today. My goal for this video is to get you inspired to create your own manga/comic today rather than wait for your art to become better. We're going to get into it now by talking about the ever so blossoming manga artist. We as artists are very influenced and inspired by everything we see throughout this world. All our experiences we have allowed us to shape what only we can see, that only we can manifest. And there's a point in our life in which a gears inside us turns, and that tells us that we want to create our own stories, and by which I mean tell our own manga/comics. But then in turn, you have these feelings that you deal with, and that you see that your art isn't that as good as you would like it to be to create a manga of your own. But I need to tell you that your own favorite manga artists/comic artists weren't always that good as well when they first started out. All of your favorite manga and comics also started drawing sequential art pretty terribly. That can extend to the art from a bad anatomy to even bad panel placement. The best example of this is the mangaka and the creator of the manga One Punch Man by One. His name you should be very familiar with, as I just mentioned. He created One Punch Man and as well as Mob Psycho 100. While I've already seen One Punch Man, One has improved with enough determination that you can create a story regardless of the quality. Now you can say that you want to create a manga because we know your art isn't that good, you refuse to do so. But now is the best time to do so while learning. While creating a manga, because you'll have to kind of draw things that you're not accustomed to, such as buildings or vehicles. This is a chance to do so while creating your manga to make it rich in depth. What helped this manga with One Punch Man, even now that since of my cycle, is that he focuses very hard on creating a well-crafted and compelling story. And it's because of creating that wonderful and compacting story, it allowed him to be able to eventually work together with Yusuke Murata to turn his work into an actual well-developed and clear, concise manga to be sold in stores. But again, this isn't always the case, and it's just sometimes a rare one-off occurrence. But just because that happened doesn't mean you should not want to make your own manga just because of hoping that, oh, maybe someone better than me would try. No, you should definitely still attempt to work on and continue to tell the story that you want to tell, regardless of how the quality may be. And with a good story, people will come. And the vice versa is said for the art as well. If you have good art, people will come, even if the story isn't that depth or isn't as concise as it should be. While we talked about some of these a few minutes ago, there are many reasons why you want to wait to start creating your own manga/comic. And the first of those reasons is again quality. Maybe your manga does not come out a certain way, or maybe you feel your art style doesn't match the vibe you're going for, or feel isn't fitting, or anything else that can't be. Now again, these are things that you should not let them stop you from creating your manga/comic, but rather than let those things prevent you from telling the kind of story you want to make, you should focus on telling the story that you set out to make, and do your best as you can while trying to hone in and improve on your art fundamentals and skills to be able to have compelling art that reflects the kind of story that you wish to lay onto the world. My journey. Now we're going to be getting into my journey and where I now am as a manga artist and how that will look like. So I'll be now sharing some of my manga that I worked on over the years. Now, of course, the main obstacle on some of these, mainly for me, which you'll definitely deal with as well, is just learning about the manga making process. Because again, we always love reading manga or /comics, but we never really looked at them very deeply from an analytical lens. We always looked at them from as a culture or fan lens of how we're just naturally reading the comics or manga, but never how everything is created and the process that goes into making those panels. Secondly, a more salient thing, but not a deal breaker, is being anatomical issues. As I mentioned earlier with the manga 1, and when he created One Punch Man, he had not the best anatomy, as you can probably tell, but again, he kept focusing on creating this story because he had a well and crafted story that he wanted to tell, and he was not afraid to do so regardless of his manga not being the best. And because he kept pushing through it, he was able to become much better, which shows in his next work of Mob Psycho 100. As you can see, he is much more better in his anatomy as opposed to One Punch Man. I digress. Right now I'm going to go over some of my manga that I have created over the years of those 5 years span. And the first being of my original manga, Alexander, particularly the 2018 version. This was the first version of Alexander that I had made at the time when I first started to create the story. Which I still have some copies, by the way, unfortunately, that I'm still trying to sell throughout the years as time progresses. But it was the first time that I created a manga on my own, and the first time that I dove into the manga making process on my own. Of course, with this being the first of its kind of the manga making process, there are some problems and issues that I have to deal with that I do realize that will follow me. The more I'm just being, I would like to say, like, I can't invent that will already happen anyway, just because I was not aware at the time. I did not think about these things, so I don't really punish myself too well for those issues. So now we're going to be taking a look at one of the pages, and if you can tell me what the problems are, then let me know. But I'll definitely tell you first off the issues I had with doing the manga. And that's the main thing, of course, first being anatomy. I was still trying to figure out anatomy and figure out how to probably draw a person correctly and draw the proper forms of the body well. And as you could tell by a lot of the pages, I did not really know how to properly do that. I was also still getting used to using Clip Studio Paint, which is my primary software I use to create my manga in. And I was still trying to figure out how you go about structuring that and how you go about utilizing the manga paper. In this case, Clip Studio's own version of it digitally within its files to be able to lay out your manga properly to be prepared to go. But that was just one of the issues. The second one being, again, I followed like a can event because I was not aware at the time. I had no problem with that. I accepted wholeheartedly. Was knowing about the paper structure. Meaning I did not know how to use the rectangle correctly, or I didn't also not know how to use the word balloons as well. Which you can see in some of the pages, which I'm showing you in real time. I'm showing you this. So I did my copy because, again, the online copy will not show as well, or you won't be able to tell if you look at it online. You're looking at the webtoons or the plastic, but in the physical ones you can see the issue, meaning that, again, I have a lot of these word balloons cut off way too far, and also I had really small font. I did not know the font size back then to use. I would miss more better concise instead of what fonts to use now, and so you'll see that in a lot of my much later works. I start to figure out more about the right font size to use. Another thing was that I was new to self-printing my own work, and I was not aware of how everything will look when you downsize it to print. So of course, being this case, Alexander was drawn exactly at the manga size. It was not drawn larger and then downscaled. It was drawn as it was on that exact size, which meant that the manga size was already small to begin with because I actually drew at that size. I didn't draw larger than what it should be, which, again, another canon event. I didn't realize that would be the issue. That was something that recommend to do whenever you are making not just books but anything to upscale. And then if you're going for something lower, you can easily downscale, as the one do the vice versa, where if you try to upscale something, then the quality is automatically going to be lost because it was never meant for that size to begin with. Growing up was my second one-shot manga, really much more than one-shot, because obviously it's still my main series, one of my main series. Growing up, my first ever one-shot that I did for a contest a few years ago. And as you can see with growing up, I was able to actually improve on all those things that I talked about earlier. Mainly the anatomy was starting to get much more better than Alexander had. And I also started to formally learn and understand more about manga panel placement and learn about the design of the page and the paneling and how everything was concise and crafted together. Even even though I still had a slight bit of anatomy issues, everything was much more laid out and much more better, and I also was experimenting more on what tools I wanted to use to craft certain fields I wanted for some of the pages and panels. Because ultimately the viewpoint of this manga was it was a kids-like one-shot manga. But you had this animal-like girl who was upset she was getting older and no one got in touch with her imaginary jester-like friend. And she was struggling to deal with that. And they had a little fun adventure together talking about those issues, all being on her own and leaving her parents behind, who were unfortunately unaware that their daughter just barely witnessing. Finally, we get to the manga where I fixed my word bubble issues, because again, while I was even growing up, still had those, even growing up had a slightly bit less. This manga would completely fix it for good as I realized what I was doing wrong and realized how to properly analyze and construct on the manga paper where my word bubble should be, and that was Pick of Love. Now, Pick of Love was my first and still currently only ever SMA entry. Now, of course, you probably know what SMA is. This is the silent market audition. If you have heard that name before, then yes, it's what it is. It's a manga contest where specialized individuals to test their manga making skills by being able to tell a story in only pictures, with no dialogue. So Pick of Love represents not only me improving every aspect of my manga making journey, but also testing me to be able to see if I can tell the story that I want to tell without words. And I do have to say, it was very much of a challenge, because as someone who only has made manga so far, especially with words and not without just pictures, it was very interesting for me to see how I can tell the story I wanted to tell while for my script writing words, because I knew I want the scenes to happen, but being able to easily convey those without words for it to happen. Now, this story I'm very happy with, because I do feel like I completed what I set out to do, and I was able to tell the story off well within the limited amount of pages I had. And if you are interested in this, as well as the next story I'm going to talk about, I'll talk about at the end of this video where you can go find those works. And it also represents this part of me as well, because I still really love these mangas, even if they all are like not as the best at the time. I still appreciate them, and it's why I'm sharing them out anyway, because they represent still my lineage as a manga artist. Now, last but not least, we have my most recent manga that I did as of last year, my most definitive one-shot, and the best it can be given the time I had, and it's the Monster Quest RPG. Now, this I created during the one-shot manga contest, which was held by Shrine Comics. Shrine Comics is pretty much just an indie manga publishing company that works for other indie manga artists, and they happened to have a one-shot contest, and I decided to enter. Now, the problem with this was, which let me say it's just a critique or a nitpick, which hopefully they can improve upon for future contests, because I feel like you definitely should, because it's very important, especially given the interest you have, regardless of who may be entering, especially if there's an age range to it. Please, I emphasize enough, please set a longer deadline. Please do not give people only a week to be able to work on this one shot, even if it's only 5 pages long. The reason that being is because I was working a job. I'm still trying to find another one, of course, but I was working a contracting job. And on top of that, I also was part of a program. And being that my days were very compact and full, which made it very hard to work on this manga as much as I would like to. When my time was so very limited, given that how the way the program worked, the way the job worked, I was nearly working almost every day. Some days off, of course, but they were unorthodox days off, meaning that I had to work on the weekends while my days off was during the week, which was not the most fun, to be exact. But again, it made it just hard because I had to juggle this while doing this and while trying to create the manga that I wanted to tell. And I feel like the manga was still good for what it is, but I feel like it could have been so much more if I had a lot more time to polish up the pages and deal with it what I can. There are some anatomy issues, of course, which I do the best I can, but again, I was so limited, so it's like so hard to really kind of try to like go super, like be super precise enough, but yet still give yourself this time to finish this all. So I had to do what I can. There wasn't much I can do just because, again, I didn't have the whole lot of time. And that's because the content itself only gave you a week to do it, which again, I feel is like not the best thing to do, especially because you got people who also adults working them to not students, which made it hard because again it's like a matter of minimum you having to push it, and then you can give what you can give given the time you have, and you know you don't have much space, so you almost can do that you can. Now again, I definitely feel like this manga could have been better if I had more time, given that we only had to do 5 pages. Because it's obviously you probably thinking yourself that, oh, that's not too bad at all. When you are a working adult and having to work at a job that's full time, that ends in the evening, and then jumping straight to your program, and then you only have so much time the night that you can work on said project because you have to read the cycle tomorrow, doesn't really help at all for what you're trying to do. So that's why I felt like it could have been better if I had more of the time given to me. We had more than a week behind it, but again, it's what it is what it is. It's actually my best out of all the one-shots and all the projects I've done, because again, this was where my art was currently at. I had improved so much, I had learned and figured out so much more about making the manga and figuring out what panel placement go, where the anatomy went, where the boba should be at, everything from nothing's out of concise and clear. Regards up the manga's quality to each of them, I know just like how manga could do, even Japan, even any manga, we still consider it very important to us, even if it's not our main defining work now. We still hold it to us very importantly, which is why, as of last year, I decided to finally bring these manga back up to the light. All of my one-shots I did for contest, you can put them into a book. Which, yeah, you can actually get the book. You can get it online. You can get it through Barnes & Noble. And I really appreciate you do, because it fills into my evolution of my manga work, and it's filled with a love. And it's also, I'd like to feel it's really just inspiring if you were for it as well, because you can see my evolution of my work, and see the work that I put into crafting these stories and telling these stories, and not being afraid to put myself out there, even if my artwork wasn't as good, which again is what the video is all about. This is all about you guys. These are all viewers out there, to not be afraid of sharing the kind of stories you want to tell. Don't let your artwork hold you back from telling the kind of story you've been thinking about telling for like ever. Or don't let your own curly hold you back from telling the kind of story you want to tell ever. There are many ways to help get your story out there, and many ways to help improve your storytelling out there. For me, I'm pretty much a one-person do-it-all type of gal, so I pretty much handle all of that for my stories myself, for the most part. Because again, there are other reasons, like, well, economic reasons. I have to work hard on my stories and tell my craft because I don't really have the funds to offload that to someone to handle the right aspects where I can focus on the art. Which I think is okay because it lets me be uniquely me and puts a stamp for it. This is a gothiclolia angel manga, and you'll know that by how she fights and how the characters are designed and how they are labeled. Now, if you like what you saw from today's video, then you should check out more of my stuff on my link below and more sites in the description below. If you're also interested in more about the software that I talked about, which again is INPRNT, they're my main software choice for making manga and also for illustration work. I've used them for the past 5+ years now with no stopper, just because they're the only ones that do what you can do with this. Because you have other stuff that software that can be done with this, but Clipsy paints like the oranges. It's pretty much what the software is about. If your manga is the best one you can do it in, it's pretty much just the source. So why not try to use anything else? Then use the one that's curious really to make comics and manga. And if you want to know more about my works, again about the manga one-shots that I did create, then check out my one-shot collection, which you can get at Barnes & Nobles by heading over to my, as I mentioned again earlier, my link tree in the description box below. It's greatly appreciated. It allows me to continue what I do. It allows me to push through to do what I want to do, and without any worries or hesitations or any problems. But for now, take care guys, and see you on the next video. Bye!